Whenever we listen to spiritual or religious people, they will always speak about guides, how they have been guided, are being guided, and they will state lots of reasons why they consider they know that to be so. In my book, Closer to God, I recount several very profound stories as to why I know I'm being guided. And I consider that I've been being guided all of my life. And in recent times, let's say going back a year, if you look back at my videos a year ago, you'll see that I was very deeply immersed in religion, Christianity, spirituality, and that level of philosophy. And I was speaking from a vantage where I was saying that I have found the kingdom of God. I know what the kingdom of God is. I can go there whenever I want to. I have had Jehovah speak with me and give me illustrations and guidance. Jesus has visited me. I've been visited by probably Satan himself, if not a very powerful demon. I have had angels give me messages. And they're the tip of the iceberg, which I write about in my book. And over this past year, I have been slowly slipping away from that. And I reduced my meditation from 5 hours a day down to sometimes nothing these days. And the level of peace and solitude has diminished considerably due to the influx of varying energies which I have been absorbing via the books I've been reading or the things I've been listening to and watching. These things from the exterior have a profound effect upon our interior. And this is why Christians and religious people in general, I would think, vouch for only reading their particular scripture. Because if they read other things and get influenced by other things, they will get torn between the varying messages, and they may even be torn away because there are other things which seem to be more powerful, more controlling, offer more of a substance, or maybe they are more tempting, whatever. If we just read, for instance, the Bible, then we can't ever really go astray. If we don't listen to things which are going to be contradicting the Bible, then the Bible is going to be our only portal of avenue, and we will gain a large level of comfort from that self-hypnosis. I have to state, I'm being as fair as I possibly can here, it is an actual fact hypnosis. I think all religion is hypnosis, hypnotizing us into doing the best possible thing by our fellow man. Because if we do things which are not conducive with our fellow man, then we are going to suffer the ramifications. So all religions guide us into the peace and love realm. And so if we have an adherence to those virtues, then that's predominantly the sort of life that we will live. In the past several months, I have made absolutely blustering videos decrying the efficacy of God and Jesus and Christianity, and saying a lot of things about what I have concluded. Because it's a whole can of worms, and we can look at these things from many, many different avenues. And if we look at the Bible and all the things that we've learned from a conscious, reasonable perspective, which you would think that that would be God's wish. You would think that if we have been created with a amount of reasonable cognitive ability, then you think by deploying that, you're deploying what God wishes us to do. But when we deploy our reason, we discover that that very reason takes us away from whatever God is asking us to do, i.e. have faith. You see, God wants us to have faith, complete and utter faith, and yet he gives us reason. So therefore we enter into another massive paradoxes. Now I'm going to be making a video about the whole Garden of Eden and the philosophy behind the Bible, because it's exceedingly contradictory. I attempted to make this video before on my phone and then it disappeared, just like the video I made this morning disappeared. So I'll no longer try it on the phone again, because it could be being disappeared via Wi-Fi. Some algorithm listening to the things I say don't want me in particular to be saying those things. Whether they want anybody to be saying these things, I don't know. But but what I do know is that when I have applied my rational mind to things, the rational mind takes me further and further away from any level of peace. If I apply my mind to faith and belief, then I get closer and closer to peace. So if there's any veracity at all in the Bible, then the truth lies in the concept of faith. Because I absolutely know. I've tested it for 6 whole months, very deeply, profoundly, reading the Bible, praying and meditating many hours and speaking to many other Christians and reading many other variety of Christian slanted books. And the whole premise of all those is faith will take us closer to God. I'm not saying that faith will get you to know God, because I'm convinced that faith will not get you to know God. But what faith will do, it will put you under hypnosis that you know God. And for those of you who feel as if you know God, you'll know that there's a great difference. And so I speak about that great difference in my book for those who are interested. But when I put myself under hypnosis, and I said to myself, well, let's just go with this faith and let's just assume that God is real and Jesus is looking after us, and if we pray to them, then anything we ask, they're on the covenant that we must receive it. And so I tried these things and I asked these things, and instantly things made manifest. Very, very bizarre, that I won't go into in this conversation, but again they're in my book. What I learned from putting myself on the hypnosis, that it is in actual fact true that I did feel better, that I did feel much more comfortable, that maybe I even felt loved. I most certainly gave people the benefit of the doubt, and I most certainly generated more love within myself. And so when we are under hypnosis, if you tell yourself you love yourself and you love everybody on a daily basis, then of course then you are going to self-generate that love, and then you can project that love coming from God. Because if you're praying, please, 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 and you're thinking about all these lovely things, and you're projecting love onto your fellow man, compassion and all that, then you're going to be creating those things within yourself, because we are a self-creation machine. We create our own reality. Our own world is all done via our own thoughts. And so I realised that by experiencing it firsthand, that is absolutely true. So if there is a God at all, however he can manifest, whatever form he comes in, there is some way that we can be closer to a notion and feeling of love. On the polar opposite, if we discount all of those things, if we discount love, like what I've been doing, I've discounted the efficacy of Jesus, God, and love, and I've been rejoicing in the fact that the devil runs through the heart of all human beings, and this is indeed the devil's jurisdiction. Well, the world becomes more devilish. The more energy I put into those thoughts, the more of a reality it becomes. So I've watched my life edged more towards the darkness by not believing in anything, not having any faith in anything, not having any trust in anything, not considering the human being to have any benevolence at their core, because they are evil at the core. And, well, what have I discovered whilst I've been doing that? I've discovered that I have becoming one of them, and I have becoming my thoughts. So those of you that are familiar with my videos for many years, you will know that I have always done this myth busting. I have always looked subjectively at my life and my thoughts, and I've conveyed to you as honestly as I possibly can what I've discovered. And so for those of you that are really interested in the profundity of what it is to be a human being in this world, then I would suggest that you read my book. It's 670 pages. It's got an enormous amount of very varied subject matter, broaching some of the most massive subjects the human being has ever contended with. And I've made some very profound revelations as far as I'm concerned. And so over this past year, from being in that particular circumstance where I could meditate for 5 hours and I could read for 10 hours a day and I could speak very superficially with lots of people because it was too dangerous to speak at any depth with anybody because you wouldn't like what you found. And it served its purpose like that, and speaking superficially was the best way to go, trust me. And I think this is across the board. We can discover things more profoundly in certain circumstances, but across the board I think it is vastly more beneficial to stay on a superficial level with our fellow man, because we really wouldn't like what we find behind the personas that people project. And this is why the eminent psychoanalyst Carl Jung stated that the last thing anybody ever wants to do is look at their own shadow, facets of what they are as a human being, all the stuff that they bury and deny about themselves. The last place they're going to go is there, and if you start to force them to go in there, then you're going to suffer the wrath of the beast himself. And so I've learnt about what the beast feels like. I've encountered the beast. I've encountered Jehovah, Jesus, angels, and a whole array of other varieties of astral and psychedelic entities. And I'm not too estranged from that world. And so I can speak with some sort of knowledge in relation to my experience. And I have discovered that if I want to feel good, then if I do have some sort of faith in the love of man, in the love of God, in the positive aspects and virtue of the human being, then I will generate the appropriate feeling within, which can then be projected back out onto the world. But what you would have seen exhibited by me ever increasingly over this year is that I have slipped from one polar opposite to the other, whereby I'm almost embracing unabashedly you know, that Satan is king, and Satan is most wise, and I chastise the Yahweh of the old Bible for being evil through and through. And I think they've got the labels confused. Instead of saying that Yahweh is love and benevolence, I would think that you've mistaken yourselves by writing Yahweh instead of Satan. You should have wrote Satan as the author of the Old Testament, because that would be closer to the reality. And the serpent of the Old Testament, you would see, which would be much more beneficent, much more benevolent, much more in line with what we are as human beings, logical thinking creatures. You see, God doesn't want us to be logical in the Garden of Eden. He just wanted us to obey and not think for ourselves, whereas the serpent gave us the opportunity to think for ourselves. And I think that that might be a good thing. But you see, when you look into the depths of this philosophically, you realise that thinking for yourselves isn't in actual fact that good. Because this whole notion of ignorance is bliss, we can see there's a certain veracity to that, can't we? We have another maxim like pigs in shit, as happy as Larry, and all these sort of similes that we speak about when people don't exercise too much thinking. Because when people exercise a good deal of thinking, people end up in a lot of trouble. And like philosophers, we all end up in our own self-realised or created mire, and we don't have any adherence to love because we don't believe in it. Most philosophers don't believe in love, I would think, because if they looked at it from a rational perspective, then they could see it's exceedingly fallacious. Some people like Dostoevsky, who wasn't really a philosopher, but he had an adherence to love because he saw and experienced the evil of man, just like Solzhenitsyn did, because Dostoevsky experienced 4 years in Siberia, and or at least the gulags, not quite sure exactly, but that's where they all was, for far as I know. And so when you've experienced this level of human evil, then it's the last thing you want to have a relationship with. And so you want to hope and pray and beg that there is love in the world, and you want to do everything within your power to manufacture it. And I've been looking, willy-nilly, without any regard for the emotions of what I've been saying within myself or within anybody else. And I've discovered that emotionally I have become more and more dull. And I'm sure that what I've said has rubbed off on you, the viewer. You've become dull also, because when we look at the harsh reality of this mire, this illusion where nothing can be really trusted, nothing can be really discerned, nothing is fundamental here. It's all smoke and mirrors, and it appears that it was never designed to give us any truth. And so that's why faith was introduced to us. And so what I'm saying about faith, people, is that it works in religion. And it also works in everyday society, because when people have faith in the love of their partner, in the longevity of their position in any company, with whatever their current politician proclaims they are going to implement, faith in kindness and virtue and all these sort of things, if people do have faith in that, then they'll most certainly live happier lives. If you doubt that there is any real benevolence or love or unabashed kindness, kindness which is just done for the sake of kindness. If you don't believe in that, which when I've looked at the world, invariably I don't believe in that. I believe that human nature is very conniving, and invariably they will always do something for a gain, whether it's a conscious gain or an unconscious gain, but it gets very convoluted, of course. And now I'm running rings around everything, aren't I? But what I'm saying, I'll keep having to bring it back. I keep having to bring it back. faith, what I'm saying. Faith is very, very important, and I'm realizing more and more each day why faith is important. In my book, I criticize faith and I poo-poo faith and I deny faith. I deny that it has any real value, because it is only hypnosis. But the fact of it is, hypnosis has value. Now, if you are a black and white visionary philosopher, and you look at the world in a stark reality, then you can say, yes, faith is ridiculous. It's for the fool. But the point is, I think we're all fools in some level and magnitude, and we fool ourselves in certain ways. Some people fool ourselves that we know a little bit. Some people fool ourselves that we're more clever than other people. Some people fool ourselves that the world is love, and all the rest of it. Well, at the end of the day, it appears the world does appear to be whatever you make of it. Because if you are seeing things, hearing things, and gaining the knowledge and insight of things, you then transmute that knowledge into feelings and emotions, and then you carry the weight of them. So if you learn very, very deeply that evil runs through the heart of every man, and then you take that on board, then what do? Well, of course, what you do is an instant you create the evil running through your own heart, because if you believe that that's the case, then it must be the case with you. And so therefore then evil starts to ferment in your own heart, and then when you see more and more evil, then obviously the evil has to grow within your own heart as well, because we are all sharing in this similar thing, and we're all projecting the similar things. And if we've all got this consensus thing going on, if we have a consensus that the world is mostly evil, then we are going to be feeding that. It's like the two wolves in our breast, isn't it? You feed the one that you want to keep. And so I'm like, well, you know, having this realistic way of looking at the world is serving me less and less. And you know, one of the things it's been doing is, like, I'm conveying you know, my philosophy and getting little response, and so then I've been getting bigger and bigger and bigger and more bolshy and more demeaning as I've belittled you more and more for failing to grasp what I've been saying. And so it's a case of, well, I mean, this is what happens. This is potentially what can happen to people who think profoundly, because you'll realise very quickly that very, very few people think anything like as profoundly as you do. And so then you put yourself on a pedestal, which is natural, but then what you have to do, you have to bring yourself back down. You have to do what Zarathustra did in Thus Spake Zarathustra, which was one of Nietzsche's greatest works. Zarathustra went up to the top of the mountain to contemplate and meditate for 10 years. And then when he came back down, he realised what a cesspool the human being was, because he had become enlightened up there, and he realised more than many people would ever realise, and he looked upon the masses with scorn. Where do you go from there? What Nietzsche was, Nietzsche was a recluse. Nietzsche felt very badly about most people due to his high intellect and the rational thinking and his detachment from any notion or experience of love, because he'd never had the love of a woman apparently, and he certainly didn't have the love of a mother. Had a little bit of compassion for his sister, but you know, these things colour our world. And so what I'm getting to here is people, that if we hypnotise ourselves, if we don't want to listen to the devil on our shoulder, and if we only want to listen to the angel, then that obviously will colour our world, and we will deny a certain facet of reality because we don't find it conducive to our lives. Why would it be conducive to our lives? Because the more we learn about evil, the more we embody evil. Even if we don't perpetrate any evil, the knowledge of it is permeating through our veins, and that in itself works in a negative way. And so when we look at what's going on in the world, and the powers that be are doing this, that and the other, and they're terrorising, it's a terrorism organisation. All states are terrorism organisations. Don't know whether that's going to get this video blocked, but that's the fact of it. But you know, it's a double-edged sword, because they deem that they need to deploy terror because it's the only thing we'll really respond to, because mostly we're dumb and we're dull, and you know, we wouldn't respond to reason, so they need to guide us with terror, just like a shepherd guides his sheep with a sheepdog. You see, it's the same principle, and that's what the powers that be think we are, cattle. And in lots of respects they are correct, so I don't condemn their methods, because the way I look at it, it's kind of like, if you want to get anything done, then you cannot appeal to the masses, to their reasoning, because most of the people, they have very, very poor measures of reasoning, and so you just do an act of terrorism, and you go this way, people, and then you do an act of terrorism over there, and you go this way, people, and you just keep guiding people down a labyrinth or down a gauntlet or something like that. So what I've concluded in my life is that delving into all this negative stuff creates negativity. And considering that the world is all love and fluffy, and praying to baby Jesus and thinking that you're going to go to heaven and all that, well, that's going to make you feel better. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. I've done both things, and I have been acquainted with both ends of the polarity of these entities, and much in between. And so now it's kind of like I've come to a point in my life, or do I want to pursue you know, the avenue of endless wisdom? Do I want to get deeper and deeper and deeper into all this stuff? It was only last night, again, that I was listening to Rudolf Steiner and Madame Blavatsky into all the deep spiritual nature of the world and the cosmos and all that. But again, where does that get us? Because very, very, very few people delve into this stuff, and if you start to speak about it, then everybody will be terrified, and you'll lose friends in an instant. And so these circles, organisations, fraternities of the occult are of course only for very, very particular varieties of consciousness that already have a relationship with the spirit world, so they're not afraid of it, but they're goodness me, let's just say their interest in it is very high, and so they want to know more, and they read all this deep, you know, stuff which would terrify most people. And so I'm like, well, look, I've had experience with spirits, and I know it's a spiritual dimension, and I know it's I know it's illusion, and there's so much I've learnt about it, but I ask myself, well, what good is it? You know, I'm, you know, a very reclusive person. The only people really I speak to is the camera. Not even speaking to anybody, am I? Invariably, sometimes, once in a blue moon, somebody will come forward and I'll have a conversation online, but I'm not speaking with any human beings. I'm not engaging with any human beings, other than very superficial, you know, in the small circles that I live in. And so I feel that probably a change is necessary to get back into having a faith, not in God, but a faith in the illusion created by God. a faith that there is some love somewhere, we can find some love somewhere. I have on many occasions found and experienced very, very deep, profound love, and so I do know it's there, and so it's the best possible state to be in, and so I think to relinquish the never-ending quest to find and eat my own tail, probably just to step back now and just to marvel at the mystery of the world. Let the mystery be. And so there's a song called Let the Mystery Be. And it states that everybody's searching, for this and that. But, just let the mystery be in the end, because we'll never know. Everybody's looking for do. I don't know. Anyway, let the mystery be. It's by Judy Collins, is it? Is it Judy Collins? Folk singer. So yes, I mean, what have I done? I am now exhibiting the Ouroboros. I am confessing that I'm eating my own tail. I'm going round and round in an infinite circle of bewilderment, really, because I've discovered that there is nothing concrete to be known about this dimension, and so I think it's time to play again. I used to be able to play. I got pretty serious over this past 14 years, but I think now that I'm going to start to play again. And this is why I'm playing my music, and I'm continuing to learn to sing, and tentatively I'm going to start to get out and mingle with more people and do some more things. And I'm going to retract from stating the bare bones of what I've discovered, because it just isn't conducive to anything. To know that this is an illusion, it's all Maya, and evil's at the root of all man potentially, and all these things. Why do we have to fight so hard to evade evil? This is a very bizarre thing, isn't it? If we're created by a benevolent God, then why at the root of us is this potential for evil? What benefit could it possibly be that we have the potential and most of us get engaged in it? Why would any benevolent God do that? It's not reasonable, is it? But if you state that to any Christians, then they'll want to kill you. And so then look at that paradox. And then if I'm ever going to upset anybody into wanting to really tell me what they think, their gnashing and wailing of the gnashing of the teeth and the wailing, which is, exhibiting them that they actually are, writing to me from hell itself. How could anybody do that? How could people that have an adherence to love and charity and acceptance and goodwill and all these things, how could they ever say a negative word? It's all paradoxical, isn't it? The world is just a humongous paradox. In actual fact, it's a bubble bath of paradoxes. There's just a gazillion paradoxes. And so accept the paradox, accept the illusion, and create your own fantasy. I think that's what it's about, people. I think the greatest wisdom I could impart after my 14 years down all these rabbit holes is that we are master mostly of our own destiny. We create our own reality, and we are our biggest and greatest of enemies potentially, but we are also capable of the greatest of fantasy. And if we want to project whatever fantasy we want onto this world, then because we are shards of God consciousness seemingly, then we have a high probability that that's what we could create. Now, I know this for myself, and if I did if I turn away from all this stuff that's going on that, you know, is herding the masses, if I say to myself, well, I'm not about to be herded, I know what it's all about, why would I want to look at it? You know, it's just beguiling and hypnotic, and it just takes us right back into that negative state of mind, which obviously they're intent to do. So come out of it and do something different. And so I'm going to be doing that, people, and I don't know what I'm going to be speaking of, but I suppose it's time to go back to a period in my life when I never took the world too serious, where I wasn't so tainted, and whether I can in actual fact shed all of the layers of grime that I've accumulated through these past 14 years. You know, that's yet to be seen. But I think by the power of my own mind and the rational application, then I can prevent myself from continuing on the trajectory that I've been, you know, hell-bent on travelling. And lots of you will be saying, rightly so, oh, finally, we've been telling you this for years, Aaron. And, you know, lots of you, you know, you have been saying this. But look at the things I've discovered along the way. And for those of you that have been watching my videos, you've all benefited from my journey, haven't you? And albeit you said, oh, he's going off the edge now. Oh, ooh, I wouldn't have said that. Oh, he's going to be doing himself no favours. Look at how brave I've been. Look at how awakened and brave I've been. And so all of you would have gained in some shape or form. Every single one of you would have gained in some shape or form. And so I can resign, I can bow out, I can hang up my gloves, I can turn away from this now, and I can head on another trajectory which is more conducive to the illusion, more conducive to the notion of faith. Because with my investigation of faith, I now truly believe that faith is probably the only portal into our salvation, because it's going to be faith that discounts all of this terrible reality that we are actually amidst, and so it's faith that's going to get us out. Faith in the benevolence and the beauty of the human being. And so if I turn my mind now to all the wonderful, incredible things that the human being do, there's lots of them. There really is. I haven't been addressing any of those things, you know, for many years. But, you know, the music that we create, and the art, and the architecture, and poetry and movies, and albeit 90% of the movies are evil propaganda. Good God, we've got to tread carefully, people. We have to really, really tread carefully, because this mire that we're in is a forest of thorns, and any given opportunity we can get pricked or spiked by one of these things which wants to take us back into the harsh reality. Don't forget you're in a forest of thorns. So, I mean, I don't know whether I've made any sense in this video. I don't know whether I've concluded anything. I don't know whether I've just continued to eat my own tail, gone round and round in an infinite circle of regress. But I think I'm on the precipice of a new direction in life, because I have looked into the belly of the beast. I've resided in the belly of the beast. I've peeped behind the veil of the fiction of life. And I now have to ask myself, well, just like Neo was presented, you see that movie, The Matrix, it's an incredible movie. He had to ask himself whether he wants to be in the Matrix or whether he wants to go into that underground nasty shithole of the reality. And, you know, the guy that, you know, was fantasizing about eating steak and then, you know, stuck in Neo. Well, he didn't want to stay in that reality, the harsh reality of living in pipes and all the rest of it, did he? He wanted to go back out into the fantasy of steak and eggs. And I think that's probably ultimately where any of us that have been delving deep will end up if we don't get waylaid. And I realise that many people get waylaid. Once they've gone down the rabbit holes, they will never come out. They will never manage to step back to come out from the rabbit holes. But I know I can do that. I know I have done it many times, because it's always been very important to me. Whenever you go down a rabbit hole, Aaron, make sure you leave an Ansel and Gretel trail of something substantial so you can find your way back. Don't be putting no fucking breadcrumbs down there, boy. Make sure you're putting in fucking surveyor's stakes and you're spraying them all red so it's clear, so you know your way back. And that's hopefully what I've done, and that's hopefully where I am now, and I feel very fresh and bright and I'm out of it. And I know all those rabbit holes are down there, they're all available. And so I just think I'm going to be basking in the light from this point forward, and so let's see what manifests.